Sugas mino guys.
Hoy, kinukuloy! Tabang! Tabang!
At exactly 7:37 in the morning, millions of people across the southern Philippines were beginning what seemed like an ordinary day. Students were arriving at school, workers were commuting, shop owners were opening their businesses. Then suddenly, the ground began to shake. At first, many thought it would stop within a few seconds. It didn't. The shaking grew stronger. Buildings swayed, windows shattered, power lines swung violently overhead. People rushed into the streets as panic spread through neighborhoods across Mindanao.
Magulang ko to sa tindahan, Lord! Buligi, Lord! Lord Jesus! Lord! Alang magulang ko, high blood ko sa tindahan. Lord!
On June 8th, 2026, a powerful earthquake struck off the coast of southern Philippines, sending shockwaves across the region and triggering fears of a much larger disaster. Witnesses describe scenes of chaos. Inside homes, furniture crashed to the floor. Inside schools, teachers rushed children toward open areas. In commercial districts, terrified residents abandoned buildings as concrete cracked and alarms echoed through the streets. The earthquake was strong enough to be felt hundreds of kilometers away. For many residents, it was one of the most violent earthquakes they had ever experienced. As emergency services began receiving calls, reports of damage started pouring in from multiple locations.
Nahugno na jud, Lord! Lord, nahugno na jud! Lord, nahugno na jud! Nahugno na jud! Nahugno na jud ang building, Lord! Nahugno jud ang building, Lord!
Several buildings suffered major structural damage. Roads cracked. Electricity failed in many communities. Communication networks became overloaded as thousands attempted to contact family members. But authorities were worried about something even more dangerous. The earthquake had occurred offshore. That meant there was another possible threat: a tsunami.
Abang! Hoy! Alayawad! Hoy, Ninel! Ninel!
Within minutes, warnings were issued for coastal areas. Emergency alerts urged residents to move to higher ground immediately. Families grabbed whatever they could carry and began evacuating. Some left behind vehicles, others abandoned homes and businesses. Nobody knew whether destructive waves were already moving toward the coastline. As the evacuation unfolded, rescue workers were racing toward damaged communities, and what they found was alarming. Collapsed structures, injured civilians, people trapped beneath debris. Hospitals began receiving a growing number of casualties. Doctors and nurses worked continuously as new patients arrived. Meanwhile, the Earth refused to stay quiet. Aftershocks continued shaking the region. Each new tremor created fresh fear. Would more buildings collapse? Would rescue crews remain safe? Would an even bigger disaster follow? For hours, uncertainty dominated every decision. And while residents waited for news, authorities were desperately trying to determine the true scale of the catastrophe. What they discovered next would reveal just how devastating this earthquake had become. As daylight spread across Mindanao, the full extent of the destruction slowly emerged. Emergency teams moved through damaged neighborhoods searching for survivors. Engineers inspected weakened buildings, medical workers treated the injured, and families waited anxiously for news about missing loved ones. The casualty count continued to rise. Authorities confirmed multiple deaths and hundreds of injuries as rescue operations expanded across affected regions. Many victims were injured by collapsing walls, falling debris, and damaged structures. For some communities, the earthquake lasted only seconds. Its consequences, however, may last for years. Entire neighborhoods faced power outages. Businesses suspended operations. Schools closed while officials assessed structural safety. Meanwhile, thousands of residents remained outside their homes, afraid that aftershocks could trigger additional collapses. Then came a wave of relief. After hours of concern, officials reported that the most serious tsunami threat had passed. The feared giant waves never arrived. But the danger was far from over. Seismologists warned that strong aftershocks could continue. Residents were urged to avoid damaged buildings and remain alert. The question many people began asking was simple: why does this keep happening? The answer lies deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The Philippines sits on one of the most active seismic zones on Earth. Known as the Pacific Ring of Fire, this region contains numerous tectonic plate boundaries where enormous geological forces constantly interact. When these plates suddenly release accumulated pressure, earthquakes occur. Sometimes the results are minor. Sometimes they become catastrophic. This event serves as another reminder of the immense natural forces operating beneath our planet every day. Despite advances in science and monitoring technology, predicting the exact timing of major earthquakes remains impossible. What can be predicted, however, is that regions along active fault systems will continue facing this threat. Today, rescue workers continue their mission. Families continue searching for answers. Communities continue beginning the difficult process of recovery. And while the headlines may eventually fade, the memories will remain. For the people who felt the ground move beneath their feet, June 8th, 2026 will never be just another date on the calendar. It will be remembered as the day ordinary life stopped without warning. A day when buildings shook. A day when entire communities feared the sea. And a day that reminded the world how quickly everything can change. The recovery process has only begun. The story is still developing, and the world continues watching. End of part 2.
Yaba, yaba, yaba.